I didn't start this diary because I wanted to. I started it because I needed to remember what the first night felt like, in case we didn't get a second one. This is not a story about panic. It's a record of what we did, and why we stayed alive. A Prepper's Diary. The First Blast. Entry 3. The Air We Breathe. Midday, time without meaning. I didn't know what time it was until I checked my watch. Down here, time didn't behave the way it should. There was no morning light, no afternoon shadows, no sunset to mark the day's end. Just numbers and fatigue, the kind that creeps in slowly and convinces you it's normal. Noticing the air. It wasn't obvious at first. That was the part that bothered me most. The air didn't smell bad. It wasn't hot. It wasn't heavy enough to alarm anyone who wasn't already paying attention. But I was paying attention. I felt it in my chest before I could explain it. Breaths felt shallow, like the room was asking us to take less with every inhale. I watched the boys, still breathing evenly, still okay. I watched my wife. She caught me looking and gave a small nod. She felt it too. That told me everything. Air is different. You can store food. You can store water. You can store fuel. Air doesn't wait for you to notice. Air doesn't care how prepared you are. It just slowly reminds you that you're alive, and fragile. I'd planned for this. That didn't make it easier. The seal that worked too well. The storage room had done its job too well. Every crack sealed, every gap filled, every door reinforced. Perfect for fallout. Not great for 5 people and a cat sharing the same oxygen for hours on end. I knelt by the door and ran my hand along the seal, feeling for leaks. Nothing. That was the problem. The filter. I checked the filter system again. Homemade. Overbuilt. Tested more times than I could count. The intake hose ran just outside the storage room, into the rest of the basement. Concrete walls, earth on all sides. The basement itself was already decent protection. Better than anywhere else in the house. The filter would handle dust, particles, anything heavy enough to settle. At least, that was the theory. The theory had always held up before. I'd left the intake damper closed on purpose. Sealed tight. No airflow. The room was meant to be airtight unless we decided otherwise. That was the trade-off. Protection versus breath. Once you let air move, you can't undo it. The moment before, my hand hovered over the damper handle longer than it needed to. Turning it meant committing. Letting air move, trusting the system instead of the seal. I pictured invisible dust drifting through the basement air, settling where I couldn't see it. I pictured radiation levels I didn't know for sure. Then I pictured my kids breathing shallow air for another hour. The choice made itself. Letting the room breathe. I turned the damper slowly, just enough. No rush, no sudden movement. Then I flipped the switch. The filter hummed to life. Low, steady, almost comforting. I watched the pressure gauge, listened to the motor. Nothing spiked, nothing strained. Air began to move. Just enough. Breaths felt deeper, easier. I didn't realize how tense my shoulders were until they dropped. My wife exhaled slowly and squeezed my arm. "Better," she whispered. I nodded. Problem solved. For now. Buying time again. That's all we ever seemed to be doing. Buying time. The boys didn't even notice. That felt like a win. They were busy with a board game again, arguing softly over whose turn it was. Normal problems. I let myself enjoy that for a moment. Late afternoon, 3:18 p.m. I checked my watch again. 3:18 p.m. I said it out loud this time, more for myself than anyone else. Late afternoon. We'd made it most of the day. That mattered. Keeping life normal. My wife kept things moving. She always does. She started pulling food from the shelf quietly, like she didn't want to draw attention to it. No heat, no noise, nothing that felt like a last resort. She laid everything out on a clean towel, peanut butter, crackers, a couple of foiled tuna packets, some dried fruit. Simple, the kind of food you don't think twice about when nothing's wrong. She portioned it carefully, not measured, but intentional. Enough to feel full, not enough to feel indulgent. The boys ate without complaint. That alone felt like a small miracle. Every warm meal save felt like a small victory. She divided food carefully, not rigid, not careless, balanced. That balance mattered more than the food itself. Late afternoon, the long wait. After we ate, the room got quiet again. Not the peaceful kind of quiet. The kind where you start noticing things you hadn't paid attention to before. The way the walls felt closer than they had in the morning. The way even small movements felt louder than they should. I checked my watch. 3:47 p.m. Less than 30 minutes since the meal. It felt like longer. Time starts to stretch. I tried not to check my watch again right away. That's a mistake people make. When you start watching time, it turns against you. Still, I checked again. 4:02 p.m. 15 minutes had passed. I let out a slow breath and leaned back against the wall. Down here, time didn't move in a straight line. It bent. It slowed. It doubled back on itself. I reminded myself that this was normal. Isolation does that. Waiting does that. The body notices first. I became aware of my body in pieces. A dull pressure behind my eyes. Dryness in my throat that didn't quite feel like thirst. A tightness in my shoulders I hadn't let go of since the knock at the door. I stretched my neck slowly, careful not to bump into anyone. The boys were quieter now, not asleep, just still. That worried me more than noise would have. Rechecking what I already knew. I stood up and walked the room again, not because anything was wrong, because movement feels like control. I checked the filter, still running, sound steady. I checked the battery level, unchanged. I checked the seal around the door again, running my fingers along the edges, even though I'd done it twice already. Everything was exactly how it should be. That didn't stop my brain from asking, but what if it isn't? The kids feel it too. My oldest shifted on his pad and sighed. Not dramatically, just enough to let me know he was bored. "Can we do something?" he asked. I nodded. "Sure." But my mind stalled for a second. We'd already done the games, the cartoons, the stories. I hated that pause, that moment where I didn't immediately have an answer. My wife stepped in without a word. She handed him a pencil and a small notebook. "Draw something," she said. "Anything." He did. That's what she does. She fills gaps before they turn into cracks. The quiet leadership. I watched her for a moment. She moved slowly, deliberately, not wasting energy, not rushing. She kept checking on the boys without hovering. She didn't ask me questions she already knew the answers to. She trusted the setup. She trusted me. That trust was heavier than fear. The mental spiral. My thoughts started looping. What if the filter failed overnight? Each thought led nowhere useful. I recognized it for what it was. Noise. Mental static. I forced myself to stop. I picked a concrete task. Inventory. Counting without counting. I didn't pull out lists. I didn't write anything down. I just went through it in my head. Food. Stable. Water. Stable. Power. Uncertain but manageable. Air. Acceptable for now. I told myself that if something changed, I'd know. And if I knew, I'd act. That was the agreement I made with myself. The room feels smaller. As the afternoon dragged on, the room seemed to shrink. Not physically, psychologically. There were fewer places to look that didn't involve another person. I stared at the concrete wall for a long time. It had small imperfections, lines, bubbles, rough patches. I traced them with my eyes like a map. Anything to give my mind somewhere to go. Pulling back. I realized then that the hardest part of this wasn't fear. It was restraint. Not doing something just to feel useful. Not reacting to every sensation. Not letting your thoughts outrun your information. Preparedness isn't about action. It's about timing. Waiting as a skill. I sat back down, leaned my head against the wall, closed my eyes for a moment. I focused on breathing. Slow, steady. In, out. The radio murmured on, filling the silence just enough. We weren't in danger right now. That was the truth. I held on to it. The radio keeps talking. The radio stayed on. It always does. Updates came and went, vague and careful. Reassurances without timelines. Statements without details. No one wanted to say the wrong thing. No one wanted to promise anything. I understood that. It didn't make listening any easier. The first cough. It was small, barely noticeable. My youngest cleared his throat once, then again a few minutes later. Nothing dramatic. Kids cough. I told myself that immediately. Dry air, dust, nerves. He coughed again, once, then settled. I told myself it was nothing. I didn't say it out loud. Still, I watched him a little more closely after that. He seemed fine, laughing, playing. I made a mental note and moved on, for now. When the lights flickered. The flicker came without warning. A brief dimming, then normal again. My wife and I looked at each other. We didn't say anything. The boys didn't notice. A minute later, it happened again. longer this time. Then the lights went out completely. Silence. No hum. No buzz. Just the radio, still talking. The grid was gone. What I already knew. I wasn't surprised. I'd expected it. That didn't make it easier. I switched the storage room lights over to battery power. Soft glow. Enough. But solar power is a promise, not a guarantee. Dust in the air. Overcast skies. Unknown conditions above ground. Panels don't care about planning. They care about sunlight. The limit set in. This was the part that wore on me. Not fear, limits. Everything now had an edge. Every decision borrowed from something else. I felt tired in a way sleep wouldn't fix. The coffee. I needed something. Not calories. Not information. Something human. I pulled out the small percolator and the butane burner. My wife smiled the second she saw it. That alone was worth it. The flame lit cleanly. The smell hit first. Coffee. Real coffee. Not instant. Not powdered. The boys watched with wide eyes as I poured hot chocolate into their cups. Steam curled into the room, warm and familiar. For a few minutes, the storage room felt like a kitchen again. What it did for us. The coffee didn't change our situation, but it changed us. It reminded us that we were still people, not just bodies waiting out a disaster. The boys laughed. Quietly. My wife wrapped her hands around her mug like it was something sacred. I felt the tightness in my chest loosen just a little. Morale isn't optional. It's fuel. Evening without light. Eventually, I checked my watch again. Evening. At least according to the numbers. I dimmed the lights. No reason to waste power. The radio stayed close. The boys curled up against me, their weight familiar. Grounding. My youngest coughed once more. Soft. I rubbed his back until he settled. The protector. My wife held my hand. She didn't say anything. She didn't need to. Down here, I wasn't just the planner. I was the protector. And that responsibility felt heavier than any gear I'd ever carried. The thought that waited. Today, we were okay. We'd made the right calls. But tomorrow without grid power would bring new problems. Different ones. I didn't think about them yet. I couldn't. For now, we were breathing. We were warm. We were together. That had to be enough.